Joining us now, Tommy Thompson, a former cabinet member in the United States cabinet, a former Health and Human Services Secretary in the Bush administration. And Mr. Thompson, I'd like to ask you first of all about the you know what's coming. This is a cabinet
Stuart,
member.
You never called me Mr. before. It's Tommy. Tommy and Stuart. Remember that?
Okay, Tommy. I'm so sorry. Well, Tommy, you sat in the cabinet. What's going on here when the president criticizes his appointment of a cabinet minister and now says, well, I regret it? I mean, doesn't that destroy morale in the Justice Department? And doesn't it open the door to a Jeff Sessions resignation?
I think destroy is probably a little bit harsher word than what I would use, Stuart, but it certainly demoralizes the department. And I think, Jeff is going to have to make his own decision as to whether or not he stays or not. But when the President of the United States or any boss appoints you and then says, I've lost faith in you, you got two choices. You can hang in there and be, subservient and probably not have any real power whatsoever, or you can resign. I would have to resign. If George W. Bush would have said, Tommy, I don't have any faith in your leadership in the Department of Health and Human Services, I said, well, Mr. President, you can have my resignation and I will leave, and thank you very much for the opportunity. And I think that's the same thing that Attorney General Sessions is wrestling with right now. I know he has submitted his resignation before, and I think it's only a matter of time. When the president loses face and then publicly announces it, I think you only have a very little time left, and I think sooner or later, if not, and I think it's sooner rather than later, I think Jeff is going to tender his resignation again.
Well, Tommy, I'm just trying to work out why President Trump would say that when he said it. He'd had this lunch with Republican senators trying to convince them to, let's pass repeal of Obamacare. He walks out of the room and does a 50-minute interview with the New York Times, including this harsh criticism of his attorney general. Seems to me like a self-inflicted wound, and I can't understand why he would say that at this time. Do you have any explanation?
None whatsoever. I do not think it was appropriate at this particular time to make that kind of a thing. I think if he really feels that strongly, he should have a heart-to-heart and a man-to-man talk with Attorney General Sessions and discuss it. I don't think putting it in the New York Times helps anybody, especially the president.
Yeah.
And I also think that your opinion on health care last week when you says all the Republicans are not doing absolutely nothing and not putting forth a Republican proposal and too many taxes and regulation. I thought, Stuart, you're right there. You're absolutely right on.
Are you with me on this? I say something is a whole lot better than nothing. Yeah?
That is absolutely correct. You got to do something. You can't just stand around and put your thumb or finger to the wind and say, I really can't do that because somebody might not like it. You're elected to be a leader. You're elected to go to Washington and change it. You're elected to make differences. You're elected to repeal Obamacare and come in with a replacement. It's up to you, and you got to get it done. You have the responsibility. You're elected. Do it.
Sir, you're a former Health and Human Services Secretary, cabinet member.
Yes.
You know this stuff from the inside. I want to bring you what the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, says. They say, look, 32 million fewer people will be insured, health insured, by 2026 if Obamacare is repealed.
Without health insurance.
Without health insurance. So we'll be without health insurance by 2026. Now, that doesn't sound right to me. Is that an accurate statement of the future?
I think that there's some accuracy there, but it's not totally accurate. If you remember, I was responsible for getting Part D, which was a major change in Medicare in 30-some years. And we had a lot of opposition, and CBO came in and scored that extremely high. And when you look at what CBO scored and what the actual figures came in, you could almost cut it in half. And so what took place in Part D, similar to, I think, what's taking place here with Medicare and Medicaid replacement. I don't think it'll be 33 million. There definitely will be fewer, because anytime you make changes, anytime you say, you don't have to buy health insurance, there's going to be some people say, I really don't want to buy it. When you have a mandate, you're going to have more people doing it because that's what the law says. Yeah. So when you just change that, you're going to have fewer things. And people are not talking about that part of the change of Obamacare.
Indeed. Sir, Tommy, thanks for joining us.
So, Tommy.
No, not
always
Sir
a
Tommy.
pleasure.
Tommy, sir, thanks very much for joining us. We're much obliged to you. Thanks very much.